Welcome back to another Switched to Linux. Well, you guys like the outdoor videos, so I thought I'd go ahead and give this one a try. I'm using a little lapel mic here that hopefully will cut back on a little bit of the wind that occasionally breezes through. And I found this little under pavilion, so it is doing a little weird things with the lighting, but that's okay. Ooh, if I sit more this way, I stay more lit. Look at that, I'm lit, man. All right. Well, today I want to talk a little bit more about, and sorry, this is going to get a little political, but it's the opposite direction I usually go. I need to bash on the conservatives for a little bit today because, man, y'all have lost your minds. And so, of course, I talked about a few months back, we talked about the Louisiana proposing a bill that will require you to show a government-issued ID to get onto naughty websites. So let's go ahead and get this out of the way first. I think that getting on naughty websites and watching such material is very bad. Okay, it has negative consequences for the person, it has negative consequences for society. However, it is your choice if you want to do that. Now, under the guise of protecting children, now we're going to say that we want to protect all the kids, which is the same trope that that the more leftist people always use for every atrocity under the sun. And they want to sit back and say, for the children! Well, now it's for the children. Now, several other states have introduced laws. Of course, Louisiana's is in effect. If you try and go to some of those nasty websites, then you're going to be asked for government ID, which is I'm completely opposed to, because I'm not giving my government ID to a website, whether you want me to be some online tutoring site or looking at nasty things on the internet, okay? But still, if you want to look at nasty stuff on the internet, dude, that's kind of your call, all right? I'm not here to tell you not to do that or not. I think it's a bad idea, but ultimately it's up to you. I'm actually doing this from the middle of Arkansas right now, which is the latest state to pass I think propose the bill. I don't think it's completely passed yet. And then several other states have also introduced or are attempting to introduce such legislation. That is Virginia, Florida, South Dakota, West Virginia, Kansas, and Mississippi. So all joining Louisiana, all Bible Belt areas, except for like South Dakota is not Bible Belt, but it is definitely a deeply conservative state, deeply Republican state, we should say. Other states, which are more of a mixed bag, have suggested they're going to also do. Oregon, that one's odd because this is, I mean, they want to decriminalize drugs, yet you have to show an ID to look at nasty stuff on the internet. Texas, of course, doesn't surprise me because people run around like Texas is one of the free states. No, Texas is like the most regulated red state, and it's the most regulated state behind California and New York. It is not the beacon of freedom that many people think that it is. I think that's more of a trope than anything else. South Carolina. Oh, I'm sorry, South Carolina. I thought South Carolina was on my first. Oh, that's right. South Carolina, I'm not sure where South Carolina sits. Minnesota, Utah, Oklahoma, Missouri, and Arizona. They all plan to add similar legislation. And of course, as I argued in my previous video, this is bad because all it does is it pushes the perversion deeper onto the internet in a much more difficult way to deal with and to handle. And that is in and of itself an issue. But then the next thing that happened is we have yet another law being proposed. This is on a different thread. Again, I agree with the overall premise. I think social media is problematic. This is why I'm not a huge advocate of social media. I have completely blocked every aspect, every element of Meta and TikTok from my network. It is just not accessible through my network or on my computers because it's that bad. But Josh Hawley just introduced the Mature Act. Of course, he's got to get in. The Uniparty has to show up, get in on its thing with the Mature Act. What is the Mature Act? Of course, it's got to be a cute and pithy acronym. The Mature Act stands for Making Age Verification Technology Uniform, Robust, and Effective. So it's like, all right, what are we trying to do? Well, we're trying to get kids off of there because they're immature. So let's call it the Mature Act. And now let's play the acronym game and string together a whole bunch of meaningless nonsense words. His idea is he does not want anybody under the age of 16 to have access to social media, primarily targeting Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, things like that. The problem is that this introduces a lot of other things so that anybody who wants to get onto any of these platforms has to show government ID. This is the uniparty system. This is the nonsense. While I agree that kids probably should not be spending their time on Facebook, you know what? That's really up to their parents. Of course, kids really aren't wanting to spend time on Facebook these days. They want to be on TikTok and Instagram and some of these other ones. So I generally agree with the premise that we need to do something about all the kids on social media, but really this is something that boils more down to education, it boils more down to parents, and it boils more down to do you have parents that actually really care about you enough to say, hey, it's not wise to spend all this time on the internet like in this manner. And so the problem is by trying to introduce a law that a bunch of people can jump on board and say, oh man, we have to do the best job we can of keeping kids off of social media because it's so bad. Everybody on the internet now, you have to show ID to get on every form of social media. This will apply to YouTube. So imagine going into your YouTube account, you want to just post a comment or leave a super chat or a tip on a video like this. Well, you got to show your ID now. I got news for you. I'm not going to be showing my ID to YouTube, whatever else. I will disappear into obscurity before I'll think about doing that. I don't know, maybe. We'll think about it. We'll see what kind of money's involved in the middle of it all, you know? It's like Louis Rossman was talking about the other day. I don't like NDAs, but if you want to come down and pay me $250,000, I'll think about it. I think he said $400,000 in his video the other day. But the point is that under the guise of trying to do something good, now these conservatives are on the precipice of doing something so horrible for the internet. To sit back and say, all right, guys, what we're going to do here is we're going to make sure the kids are safe, so we have to be big daddy government involved here in making sure the kids are safe. This is no different than the left-wing weirdos doing all their crazy stuff. I don't see really any distinction between this and being like, you need to show your photo ID to get on Facebook or YouTube or TikTok. It's a bunch of nonsense. While I agree that kids should not be on those things, this is where parents come into play. And the more people try and push back and try and keep kids, the government tries to keep kids safe on the internet. I'm sorry, there is no safe on the internet. But the more you drive these things into obscurity, the more decentralized they're going to be. Okay, if I'm in Louisiana right now and I try and go to the naughty website with the rough abbreviations PH, and I try and go there right now, it's going to be like, hey, you need to show some ID because here in Louisiana, blah, blah, blah. But if I go to like NordVPN and I say, oh, I'm now from Oregon, right? Sure, until they pass their laws. Oh, you're in Oregon, come on in. So you can bypass it that way. What about the kid? They just, they have apparently have absentee parents anyway if they're over there trying to get on that website anyway. And so they'll just borrow their dad's ID. Yep, here it is. They'll memorize it. They'll just be curiously looking at it, but they'll be memorizing it. They'll sneak a photo with their phone. Whatever else they're going to do, they're going to get on it. But here's the problem. If you try and start implementing this across the states, what's going to happen is when people, and I have counseled many, many, many people who have had pornography addictions. I have counseled a lot of people out of this, okay, from all walks of life. And here's what I know. One person told me this story, and I know he would not have a problem repeating portions of it. He moved into an area that put an internet filter on. All he did is got more creative in getting away around the filters to try and access the content. That is the thing. It is an addictive drive that pushes you down into continuously looking at these sites. So if I am blocked from doing that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to circumvent that every way I can. I'm going to dig deeper. I'm going to go further down into depravity, and I'm going to find myself on websites which are far worse than PH doing its fairly tame things. I can't say, I have not been on the site. But the point being is that we cannot legislate the morality in this manner. We can pass some degrees of laws, but if you want to try and make ID required to get on nasty websites or even social media, you're going to open a bigger can of worms than you can possibly imagine. So I'm sorry, conservative states, you guys are just buying into the globalist agenda here of supplying photo IDs to every website under the sun. And this is a seriously problematic thing. This needs to stop. And under the guise, rather than rely on the government to do this, this is a good time to learn self-reliance. And if you're like, well, we need to protect the kids, good. It starts at home. Protect your kids. Put in reasonable restrictions, make sure that your kids know exactly where they can go, and supervise them when they are on the internet. But they could go to their friend's house. You know what? If you suspect that your friend's parents are not being parents, then forbid your kids from going over there. But that might make me a bad parent. No, it will not. It will make you a good parent, as your child does not fall into the depths of a hell as you're attempting to simply help them out. Now, on the flip side of this, I'm not suggesting to completely shield your children from everything. Too many Christians do that. They try and completely shield their children from what's out there. The balance of the Christian life, guys, read your Bibles to your kids. Teach them about all of the horrors of the rape and of the murder and of the destructions. You realize nothing new is under the sun. Like date rape occurs in Genesis. You guys know that? If you read the book of Genesis, find the date rape. I'll give you a hint. It's in the first 25 chapters, all right? I've cut your size down in half. We see deceptions. We see murder. We see all sorts of things. The Christian life is not to shield your child from these things. It is to appropriately teach them why to avoid it. And if everything is regulated by the government, we lose that teaching opportunity. And that is the real factor here. So Josh Hawley, I'm sorry. While I think that kids should not be spending time on social media, the government is not the place, and certainly not by requiring photo ID in order to get on these websites. That is absolutely insane. That is a bigger can of worms you can possibly imagine. And if people need to keep their kids safe, and we do, that has to start at home. And every person with kids has to take a more proactive role in protecting your kids at home. That is what our task. So thanks for coming along on this video here. I'll try and, if I can remember, I'll go ahead and put some of the links to some of these articles down here that I was referencing, so you can have a look at them yourself. With that, thanks for watching, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux. Thank you for watching this video from Switched to Linux. This channel would not be possible without the backing of the program supporters scrolling on the screen now. You can be a supporter at Patreon at patreon.com/TOMM or at thinklifemedia.com. I also want to thank the open source community who creates such excellent software that makes producing this show possible. Please remember to support your software communities. Thank you, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.